Stars shattered under the firestorm, fragments of distant worlds spinning into the void. Through the chaos, a single ship limped forward, scarred, smoking, and trailing a streak of blood-red fire across the black canvas of space. On its deck stood a human, alone, defiant, and unyielding. The Galactic Empire's fleet loomed ahead, a wall of impossible odds. Thousands of ships, countless weapons, and the cold certainty that humanity had no place in this war. Yet he did not falter. Every scar on his vessel, every dent in its hull, was a testament to the battles humanity had already survived, and the ones they were about to wage. As alarms screamed and alien engines thundered closer, a single question hung over the battlefield. Could one human, against an empire that spanned stars, truly change the course of history? Or was this the final stand of a species doomed to fade? Before the galaxy had come to fear his name, before the bloodied hull of his ship became a symbol of defiance, he had a life that was quiet, unremarkable, almost painfully ordinary. On a small human colony at the edge of the Orion Arm, he walked streets lined with the muted hum of neon lights and the soft chatter of neighbors. Children played under the shadows of massive orbital towers, their laughter echoing against the steel and glass of a city that had grown from dust into ambition. It was a life built on survival, on small victories, the kind of victories that no one wrote about in history books, but that kept humanity alive. He, Jarek Corvin, was not a soldier. Not yet. His days were spent in maintenance bays, repairing freighters and mining rigs, hands blackened with grease, eyes tired from calculations and engine diagnostics. Yet there was a spark in him that no machine could measure, a curiosity and stubbornness that set him apart from the others who simply accepted life as it came. The colony thrived on routine, but Jarek always wondered what lay beyond the safety of the orbital shields, beyond the familiar stars. That curiosity, that relentless drive to push boundaries, is what had earned him a place among the engineers tasked with an experimental project, the Baba Yaga, a ship designed not merely to traverse the stars but to dominate them. It was humanity's answer to the growing threat of the Galactic Empire, whose reach had already claimed worlds faster than humans could settle them. Where others saw impossibility, Jarek saw a challenge. Where others saw fear, he found determination. Even then, the stakes were subtle but undeniable. Rumors of alien fleets, of entire colonies disappearing without warning, filtered through the station's communication networks. Each report carried the same undertone. Humanity was fragile, outmatched, and easily extinguished. And yet, Jarek could not ignore the whisper of possibility, the chance that one human, armed with ingenuity and sheer will, could make a difference. He often remembered the night before he first set foot aboard the Baba Yaga. The sky had been alive with the auroras of a dying star, its light casting long shadows across the colony. Families gathered at the edge of the observation decks, unaware that their world was on the brink of entering history. Jarek had stared at those shifting colors, the celestial dance of destruction and beauty, and felt something awaken in him, a sense that the ordinary life he clung to was no longer enough. Something larger was coming, and it would demand everything humanity had to offer. It started subtly. The first communications blackout on the frontier, then the disappearance of a convoy near the edge of colonized space. Panic swept quietly, like a shadow over the colony, but Jarek didn't see it as panic. He saw the call to action. And when the orders came to ready the Baba Yaga, to prepare for a mission that no human had ever survived, he didn't hesitate. Others might have seen a doomed venture, a suicide run into the teeth of an empire that spanned light years. Jarek saw purpose. Purpose, yes, but also fear. He had watched too many friends vanish in accidents, watched the stars claim what humanity could not defend. Every step onto the Baba Yaga's deck was a step into the unknown, a crossing from the world of routine and safety into a realm where the rules were rewritten by fire and ambition. The ship's hull vibrated beneath him, alive with engines that had never before carried a human this far into enemy space. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly human. As the colony faded behind him, lights dimming into the void, Jarek understood the truth of what awaited. The galaxy did not care for human courage, for cleverness, for determination. But if one person could endure, if one human could outthink and outlast, then perhaps the impossible was within reach. Humanity had survived against predators before, against odds that should have crushed them, against forces that should have left them nothing but dust. And now, as the Baba Yaga's engines roared to life, carrying its lone human into the jaws of the Galactic Empire, Jarek carried that survival in his blood, in his mind, in his very soul. The ordinary life he had known was gone. The challenge ahead would demand everything, and perhaps more than even a human could imagine. The void was never silent, not for Jarek, not aboard the Baba Yaga. Her hull creaked like an old warrior's bones, scars etched into every plate, burns and gouges that whispered of the battles she had already endured. The hum of her engines was steady, low, like the heartbeat of something alive, something too stubborn to die. Jarek had come to think of her that way, less a machine and more a companion, a bloodied sentinel that carried not just him, but the weight of all humanity. And now, for the first time, the Galactic Empire had seen her. The first encounter came at the edge of the Hadros Expanse. A patrol fleet, 3 sleek Imperial frigates, moved in formation like silver knives against the void. Their hulls shimmered with energy shields, their engines burning bright with the power of an empire that had forgotten what resistance looked like. To them, Jarek's ship was nothing more than wreckage that hadn't realized it was dead. They hailed him, voices smooth and cruel. "Unidentified vessel, power down your engines. Prepare for immediate boarding. Your surrender will be noted in the record." Jarek said nothing. Instead, his fingers danced over controls patched together from a dozen worlds. Human ingenuity was not elegance. It was desperation, honed into brilliance. The Baba Yaga's shields were weaker than theirs, her weapons fewer, but she had teeth they didn't understand. He rerouted power from life support to the coil cannons, dimming the lights until the ship was little more than a shadow. He vented excess fuel to distort their sensors, painting ghosts across their scans. By the time the frigates realized what was happening, the Baba Yaga was already moving, slipping between their formation, a predator where they saw only prey. The first shot ripped through the nearest frigate's engines, the detonation a silent flower of fire against the void. The second cannon strike tore across another's shields, peeling armor like paper. The third never landed. They returned fire, beams of blue light tearing past Jarek's ship, burning scars deeper into an already bloodied hull. Jarek gritted his teeth. He wasn't faster. He wasn't stronger. But he was human. And humans adapted. Every blow they landed taught him how they thought, how they hunted. And with every maneuver, he turned their assumptions against them. By the time the battle was over, the patrol was nothing more than drifting wreckage, their messages cut off mid-scream. He didn't cheer. There was no triumph in survival, only the knowledge that the Empire would come harder, faster, angrier. And they did. Days turned into weeks. Every jump brought him deeper into their territory, every battle carving new scars into the Baba Yaga. He scavenged weapons from the wreckage, grafting alien tech onto human steel. What didn't fit, he rewired, bent, or broke until it obeyed. Every ship that came for him became fuel, ammunition, armor. Where the Empire expected surrender, Jarek delivered defiance. Word spread. Rumors carried on broken transmissions, whispered across colonies that had thought humanity lost. They spoke of a lone ship drenched in battle scars, a ghost that slipped through fleets and left ruin in its wake. They called him the Baba Yaga, not just a name for the ship anymore, but for the human who commanded her. A specter of vengeance, a legend in the making. But legends don't win wars. The Empire adapted. They sent fleets of 100 ships, carriers with swarms of drones, cruisers bristling with weapons older than humanity's first stars. Jarek faced them all. Sometimes he ran, slipping through gas clouds and asteroid fields, the Baba Yaga's engines screaming in protest. Sometimes he fought, calculating every move with the cold precision of a man who knew one mistake meant extinction. And yet, he endured. Because that's what humans do. One battle nearly broke him. Near the twin suns of Velran, an Imperial dreadnought cornered him, its shadow stretching across his viewport like a god blotting out the stars. Its weapons could have shattered Earth itself, and they were all pointed at him. Jarek's hands shook as he scanned his options. Running was impossible. Fighting was suicide. But surrender? No. Never. He remembered the colony, the children playing under orbital towers, the neighbors who had trusted men like him to keep the lights burning. If he died here, humanity's story ended as a footnote, erased by the cold efficiency of an empire that saw them as insects. That could not be allowed. So he gambled. He rerouted every ounce of power into the engines, pushing the Baba Yaga faster than she was ever meant to fly. Shields collapsed. Hull plating glowed red, then white, then cracked. He aimed the ship not at the dreadnought's weapons, not at its engines, but straight at its hangar bay. The collision was not a strike, but a surgical wound. Explosions tore through the dreadnought's spine, ammunition cooking off in a chain reaction. By the time Jarek pulled free, half his ship was gone, but so was the dreadnought. 2 suns reflected its death in twin blossoms of fire. Jarek collapsed in his chair, chest heaving, blood dripping from where the crash harness had cut into his skin. He was alive. Barely. The Baba Yaga groaned, wounded but still breathing with him. Together, they had destroyed a god of war. And yet, the Empire still came. Fleet after fleet, each stronger than the last. And with each victory, Jarek grew more ruthless, more cunning. He used their own weapons against them, laid traps in asteroid belts, turned dead worlds into ambush sites. He was no longer an engineer who fixed ships. He was the knife in the dark, the storm that bled them. But the weight of it pressed on him. Every face he saw in his dreams belonged to someone he had not saved. Every battle reminded him of how fragile humanity truly was. He knew the Empire would not stop until he was ashes, and he knew that if he failed, Earth and every colony would follow. Then came the message. A transmission broadcast across all frequencies, clear and mocking. Human. Baba Yaga. You are not a warrior. You are not an empire. You are one man on a dying ship. Surrender, and your species will be spared. Refuse, and we will erase you and them with the same hand. Jarek stared at the words burning across his console. He saw the blood dried into the seams of his ship, smelled the acrid smoke of overworked engines, felt the tremor of a vessel that had given more than it had to give. The Empire believed this was his breaking point. They believed a human could be forced to kneel. They had no idea what humanity was. He leaned forward, eyes burning with exhaustion and defiance. His voice was raw but steady. Then come. And somewhere in the darkness, the Baba Yaga's engines roared to life once more. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The Galactic Empire had gathered its wrath into one place, an armada so vast it blotted out constellations. Carriers, dreadnoughts, frigates by the hundreds, a storm of steel and fire that stretched across the void. Their formation was perfect, a wall of inevitability. No fleet in history had ever withstood such force. No single ship could even hope to survive its shadow. And yet, there he was. The Baba Yaga drifted into their path like a specter risen from the grave. Her hull was shredded, scarred beyond recognition, engines coughing with each pulse, plating scorched and peeling. She should not have been flying. She should not have been alive. But she was, because Jarek Corvin was. He stood in the heart of the dying ship, sweat stinging his eyes, hands trembling over the controls. Every breath rattled like broken glass in his lungs. The Empire had offered him surrender. The galaxy expected his silence. But humanity demanded something else. One last strike. The Empire's commander appeared on his display, an alien face twisted in mockery. Human, you've fought well, for an insect. But here it ends. No more myths, no more ghosts, only ash. Jarek didn't answer. He didn't need to. The ship answered for him, engines flaring one last time like a dragon waking from death. The Armada moved as one. Thousands of cannons lit the void, a tidal wave of destruction converging on a single point. The Baba Yaga dove straight into it. Shields shattered instantly, hull screaming under the impact. Explosions ripped across her frame, tearing metal, flaying systems, but she kept going. Every second she lived was impossible. Every second she survived was human. Jarek rerouted failing systems into weapons, turning engines into warheads, life support into fuel for the guns. Each shot he fired was stolen time, each maneuver carved from defiance itself. Alien frigates buckled under his strikes, carriers erupted in blossoms of fire, drones fell silent like rain into the void. But the cost was everything. The Baba Yaga was dying, truly dying this time. Decks collapsed, fire tore through corridors, consoles burst in showers of sparks. The ship that had carried him this far, that had become humanity's shadow and sword, was reaching her end. Jarek's vision blurred. He could feel the heat, the smoke clawing at his lungs. But in that haze, he remembered the colony, the laughter of children under orbital towers, the glow of stars against the observation deck. He remembered why he fought. And he smiled. For the Empire had made one fatal mistake. They thought humans feared death. But humanity feared only chains. He triggered the final protocol. The Baba Yaga's core roared, a soundless scream in the vacuum as it overloaded. Every ounce of fuel, every fragment of stolen tech, every scar and every wound, all of it became fire. The ship turned into a sun, a burning spear aimed straight at the Empire's heart. Jarek guided her into the Armada's center, weaving through a storm of fire with the grace of a dying star. Warnings blared, hull integrity collapsed, the ship came apart piece by piece, but still she flew. And then, at the very heart of the Empire's fleet, Jarek whispered one word into the void. Now! The Baba Yaga detonated. The explosion tore the heavens apart. A shockwave of light and fire consumed the center of the Armada, ripping ships from existence, shredding formations, leaving the proud Empire reeling. For one terrible, glorious moment, the galaxy was bathed in the wrath of a single human's defiance. When the light faded, silence followed. The Armada was broken, its heart ripped out. But the Baba Yaga was gone. The wreckage drifted like ash across the stars, fragments glowing faintly against the black. No signal came. No ship emerged. To the Empire, it seemed the ghost was finally dead. And yet, across human colonies, across the scattered worlds that had feared they were alone, a message spread. A story. That one man, in one bloodied ship, had faced an empire and forced it to bleed. A story the galaxy would not forget. The blast had faded, but its echo lingered across the stars. Where the Galactic Empire's armada had once stretched in an endless wall of steel, only wreckage remained. Shattered dreadnoughts drifted in silence, their burning hulks orbiting the black void like funeral pyres. 1,000 alien war songs had been silenced in a single blaze of defiance, and at the heart of it, the Baba Yaga was gone. No signal, no beacon, no trace of Jarek Corvin, only fragments of a ship that had carried humanity's will into the unyielding jaws of an empire. To the empire, it was victory. They would declare it as such, shouting across the galaxy that the Spectre had been vanquished, that the human threat was finished. But those who had seen the battle knew better. In colonies huddled on distant worlds, in outposts that had lived in fear, whispers spread faster than imperial lies. One man, one ship, against them all. The story could not be erased, because stories are harder to kill than fleets. Where the Empire saw ash, humanity saw fire, embers that would not go out. Children on mining stations traced the Baba Yaga's jagged silhouette onto walls, pretending to pilot her against impossible odds. Farmers beneath alien suns told the tale around communal fires, their voices trembling with pride. Soldiers who had thought themselves abandoned lifted their heads, because if one man could do this, what could many accomplish together? Jarek had vanished, but he had left something greater behind. Proof. Proof that humanity could not only endure, but strike back. That ingenuity, stubbornness, and sheer refusal to kneel could tear holes in the armor of an empire older than their species. The Empire knew it too. In their private councils, in the shadows of their shattered fleets, they whispered of the human who would not die. Fear crept into their ranks, fear that somewhere, in some hidden corner of the void, another ship was rising, another human was waiting. Fear that Baba Yaga was not a man, not a ship, but an idea. And ideas are immortal. The galaxy would change. The colonies that had cowered would begin to unite. Engineers would salvage fragments of the Baba Yaga's wreckage, studying the blend of human grit and stolen alien technology. Generals would speak his name in hushed tones, using it as a rallying cry for resistance. And somewhere, deep in the stars, other humans would take up his mantle, not because they sought glory, but because they knew the cost of silence. For that is the truth of humanity. We are fragile, yes, breakable, often. But we do not stay broken. We bleed, but we endure. We burn, but we rise again. Every scar becomes a lesson. Every loss becomes a spark. Jarek Corvin's spark had become a wildfire. Perhaps he was gone. Perhaps he drifted as ash among the wreckage of his ship. Or perhaps he lived, carried by fate, waiting for another chance to stand. The galaxy would never know for certain. And in that uncertainty, in that lingering question, the legend only grew stronger. In the end, it didn't matter whether Jarek survived. What mattered was that humanity had. From the ruins of the battle, from the silence that followed, a truth had been carved into the bones of the stars. Humanity was not finished. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not prey. We are the storm that comes when the galaxy grows complacent. We are the fire that refuses to die. We are the reckoning that empires forget to fear until it is too late. And as the story of the Baba Yaga spread, one question remained, whispered with awe and trembling hope across 1,000 worlds. If one human could do this, what will we all do, together?